Hi, this is Krista Walsh.
Hey, this is Daniel Arthur Smith.
Hey, this is Terry R. Hill.
Hey, it's Josh Hayes, and you're listening to
30-minute author interviews
with my friend Preston Lay.
Woohoo!
Hey everybody, what's going on? This week's episode of 30-minute author interviews is brought to you by Serial Box. Serial Box delivers exciting episodes of ongoing stories straight to your device every Wednesday. They bring everything that's awesome about TV to what's already cool about books with addicting serials you can take with you on the go. All of their episodes are available in text and audio, and their sleek app makes reading easier than ever. They have a range of titles from gritty urban thrillers to sexy sword-fighting fantasies and everything in between. Last week was the start of Season 2 of The Witch Who Came In From the Cold, a serial about spies and sorcerers in Prague during the Cold War. All the subterfuge of the Americans with a dark dose of magic. You can read or listen now, and the very first episode is free. Head on over to serialbox.com, that's serialbox.com, or head on over to the Leigendarium and check out the show notes. I'll have a link to their website. And we do have a giveaway with this week's episode. Cait Ashwood is going to be giving away a signed copy of her book as well as one of her exclusive bookmarks. All you need to listen for is what would Cait Ashwood's mom have to take from her in order to ground her. Listen for that answer and then head on over to Leigendarium.com, find the show notes for this episode, and leave your comment in the comment section. One winner will win. Good luck, everybody. And now, 30 minutes with Cait Ashwood. Thank you for taking time out of your day and coming on 30-minute author interviews.
Thank you for having me. It's wonderful to be here.
Yeah, not a problem. Well, as you know, we start out here with a segment called Two Truths and a Lie. So if you could, can you tell us two truths and a lie about yourself? And I will probably get it wrong.
Okay. All right. Let's see. Two truths and a lie. All right. I have attended a panel with George R. R. Martin. Todd McCaffrey owns one of my bookmarks. And I share a birthday with Stephen Hawking's daughter.
See, so I've been thinking about this, as I told you, because you sent these to me in a media kit. So I've had a day to stew on it. And we watched that latest movie about Stephen Hawking, and I can't remember if he had a daughter in that movie or not. So I'm unsure on that one. The Todd McCaffrey, that would be pretty cool if he does own a bookmark. That'd be pretty neat. I've never read any of his books. I'm probably going to lose some geek cred because I've never read any of his stuff.
See, I grew up on his mom's books, but I haven't actually read any of his, so I sort of feel like I've lost geek cred. But at least I've read the world he writes in, so I feel a little better.
Okay. And then I attended a panel with George R. R. Martin. Man, see, I'm so getting this wrong. I'm hoping the George R. R. Martin and the Todd McCaffrey thing are true. So I'm going to say, but man, the birthday one's so simple. I always overthink. So I'm going to say the lie is you share a birthday with Stephen Hawking's daughter.
That is actually true. She writes children's fiction as a way to teach kids science, and we both were born on November 2nd.
Okay. So which one is the lie?
The lie is attended a panel with George R. R. Martin.
Oh, darn. Have you been able to attend any panels?
I have. I attended a panel with someone who had attended a panel with George R. R. Martin.
There you go. That's where you got me.
But she apparently was lecturing him on the fact that his dragons aren't dragons, but they are drakes. So he didn't take too kindly to that.
Really?
Apparently, yes.
I've never heard that before. Okay.
Yeah, the particular panel I went to was sort of dragon-centered because Todd McCaffrey was guest of honor, so that sort of makes sense.
Okay.
But, yeah. Mm-hmm.
So is that where you gave him, Todd McCaffrey, one of your bookmarks?
I actually did not. My best friend / beta reader / she's just amazing with everything, is my self-professed PR person. And so I'm walking around this con and my bookmarks are literally everywhere, and I'm sitting here going, She's just been like the little Energizer Bunny running around here giving out all of my stuff. So
That's
so
funny.
going, and that person's got a bookmark, and oh, he's on a panel and he's got my bookmark.
That's funny.
It was a lot of fun.
That's pretty awesome. So for those that of our listeners that might not know who you are and what you do, can you kind of give our listeners a little bio on who you are and what you do?
Okay. Well, obviously, my name is Cait Ashwood. I write in a couple of different genres, mainly fantasy and sci-fi. I'll stray into dystopian or sci-romance or any of those other sort of offshoot categories. I've got my first trilogy in the works right now is The Order of the Lily. The first book just released in January, and that was The Seekers. So now I'm hard at work on book 2. And my work tends to have a little bit of a literary bent just because I like stories with a purpose. Mm-hmm. And so that's basically who I am in a nutshell.
So did you grow up being a reader? Did you enjoy reading growing up, or is that something that you discovered later on in life?
That is actually how my mom would have to ground me when I was a kid. Was she would have to take away my books because taking away TV didn't do anything because I didn't care about TV. So it was pretty brutal. The summer the 4th Harry Potter book came out because I'm sitting there going, I want to read the book, and she took the book away and she said, you're allowed to go to the release, but you can't read the book. And I was just devastated.
Wow.
And she'd had surgery that summer, and so I couldn't go anywhere. I couldn't go to the pool. I couldn't go anywhere. So I would wait until she was asleep on her pain meds, and I'd go in and I'd sneak the Harry Potter book and I'd read a chapter or two, and then I'd sneak it back in and put it where she had it. And
That's hilarious. Yeah. That's so funny. Actually, I never grew up a reader, but Harry Potter was the first book that I read. My girlfriend, who's now my wife, had me read Harry Potter, and so Harry Potter got me into reading.
Yeah, the first Harry Potter book I was given was actually number 3, and then I had to yell at my friend because it's like, why wouldn't you give me the first one? You suck. So then I had to go back and start all over again.
That's funny. So she let you go to the book release. How was that book release for you?
I don't remember too much because I went to a bunch of them, so they all sort of strayed together. But I know it was fun because you got to dress up in capes and everything, and you were allowed to stay up to midnight, and the Barnes and Nobles were open, and they would do this huge big event where you could get face paintings and little fake kid tattoos and all that sort of thing. And it was this big party, and then you'd get your book.
Yeah, so. The only book releases I've been to is I went to the final book release for the Harry Potter series. Mm-hmm. And then I'm going to lose some more nerd cred. We went to, I think it was the book release for the 3rd Twilight book. Okay.
Yeah, I know a lot of people who went to that. So I was okay with Twilight until the 4th book, and then I just sort of was like, wow, this sucks.
The funny thing about that book release was we stumbled upon a trivia that they were doing, mm-hmm. and you got into teams. And so these people are like, oh, come be on our team. And it was a bunch of me and my wife were married, and so there's a bunch of teenagers in this group. So we walk over. I hope they didn't think we were going to contribute a bunch when we didn't. But they're asking questions that we're just looking at. Me and my wife are looking at each other like, that's in the book? What color is the gym teacher's T-shirt that he's wearing in book 2, chapter 5, paragraph 6, sentence 3. And
I didn't read that detailed into those. In fact, the only reason I read them was as a relationship coaching thing because the guy I was with at the time said, hey, this reminds me of our relationship, which probably explains everything on why it didn't work out.
That's funny. Our team got every single question right. I have no idea how they did it. So they gave you numbered armbands, and we were number 300 and something waiting for the book. And then they're like, the winner of the trivia gets to go to the front of the line. So we went.
Oh, nice.
We were walking out of the store at 10 seconds after midnight with our book. It was.
That's awesome.
It was fun. Yeah, it was a fun little party. I wouldn't mind going to some more book releases. So how did you get interested in writing? What gave you the writing bug and made you decide to start writing your own stories?
Well, I was this hybrid of homeschooling and public schooling. So I was I would do a couple years of homeschool, and I'd go to public school for a couple years, and I'd go homeschool for another couple years. And the main reason for that was my mom was just absolutely horrified that by 2nd grade, I hadn't seen an English book. Like, they didn't even assign me one or send me home with one. And so she's like, no kid of mine is going to be raised not knowing decent grammar and everything. So it was probably some random little creative writing assignment that she had assigned to me, and I came up with, because it had to be Halloween themed, The Attack of the Killer Beanie Babies.
Nice.
And it was basically, looking back, I can see that it was Toy Story-esque. You know, they came alive whenever the kid was either asleep or not home or whatever. And I guess the kid had destroyed one of the Beanie Babies somewhat by accident, and it was the rest of them plotting their revenge.
Nice.
Which I don't do horror, so that's about as scary as I get.
You should release it.
I don't even know if she still has a copy.
Oh, really? That's funny. And so, what made you gravitate towards science fiction and fantasy in your reading?
Really, it's what I grew up reading. I would read just about anything I could get my hands on, but most of that was my dad's college books, which was the Sword of Shannara series by Terry Brooks. It was all of the Anne McCaffrey books, so Pern, the Acorna series, everything like that. So that's what I had in the house that I could put my hands on, and that's what I read. And then by the time we started going to libraries, because I ran out of reading material, I just sort of kept in the same thread because that's what I liked. I did the Goosebumps books and the Nancy Drew and the Harding Boys and all of that. But while they were fun, it never really took the place of sci-fi or fantasy for me.
Okay. And as you said, you released your first book in your Order of the Lily series called The Seekers at the end of January. Why don't you kind of give the readers a little book blurb with non-spoilers on what that series is about?
Oh, I totally suck at the non-spoilers part. Okay. Basically, the world in the future never really recovered from a nuclear disaster is sort of our setting. And there was this group of women who could heal the earth enough to have crops, which, is kind of important if you want to stay alive. And 60 years ago, this order vanished without a trace, just gone. The biggest problem with that is their ability traveled along a bloodline. So if there's no women left of the order to perpetuate this bloodline, then obviously you're in a world of hurt. So while they're all basically starting to starve, the males of the bloodline, they can sort of jump between places. And they figured out how to jump between time. So it became their mission to go back in time and find ancestors of the bloodline that they know and bring them into the future to reestablish this bloodline. The only problem is every single one they've brought through was sterile. They were not able to reproduce, but they were still able to do enough of the healing to keep everyone alive. So instead of becoming a 1 or 2 time mission, this has become a constant thing for them in order to survive. And what the story sort of starts is Audrey is the first woman who has come through that isn't sterile. So she's basically the miracle. But around the time that she comes in, all of the parties of the Chosen have started disappearing. So it's this interesting thing where, okay, what's going to happen now? How are they going to keep her safe? And is she going to be successful in being able to reestablish this order? Or are they going to be stuck in the status quo of having to, continuously comb through the past and try and find women to come forward?
Where did your inspiration and idea for this story come from?
I am of the very odd habit when I can't fall asleep of just trying to give myself a scenario and see where it goes. Mm-hmm. And obviously in these scenarios, I sort of cast myself as the main character because it's just easier that way. And so it came from I really hate this apartment complex I'm living in. I wish I could live somewhere else. And with all of the other issues that we have right now, socially, economically, politically, just, as human culture, it's like, I wish I could go back to when times were simpler. And so, my brain immediately sort of said, oh, well, that would be in the past. And I was like, well, why couldn't it be in the future? So then it's just sort of started and snowballed, and I'd add a little bit to it each night, and eventually became this huge story. And I was like, this needs to get written down somewhere. Mm-hmm. So, and then it just happened.
So how many books do you think are going to end up being in your series?
Right now it's planned as a trilogy with at least 1 or 2 sort of offshoots that are set in the same world, the same time frame. Okay. But they're not necessarily directly linked to the trilogy. Obviously, if that happens and fans love it and they tell me more stuff they want to know, that could always grow. But right now it's planned as 3 with at least 1 or 2 offshoots.
Now, when you say 1 to 2 offshoots, is that 1 or 2 books or 1 or 2 series?
It would be books. I'm not sure. The plan is a novella, but I generally don't do very well writing short things, so it could turn into a full-long novel for all I know. But it's going to focus on one of the characters in particular and his backstory, which I can't get into because that's a massive spoiler for book 3.
Okay.
But
So do you have the whole trilogy already mapped out and planned out? Have you kind of planned everything, or do you fly by the seat of your pants?
I have 2 huge boards in my writing room. One's a whiteboard and one is a corkboard. And the whiteboard has series arc written on it in really big letters, and it's got the key plot points of the entire trilogy on the board. And then what I do when I'm ready to start writing is I'll open up Scrivener because I have the little corkboard in there, and then I'll elaborate on those and I'll break it out into my chapters and make sure I hit all those big plot points that are on the whiteboard along the way. So it's planned. Obviously, the characters will still surprise me and throw me curveballs that I have to work around, but for the most part, it's planned out.
Okay, who did the artwork for your book, The Seekers? Because it's a great cover.
That would be Jaya here of Simply Defined Art, and I'm hoping I'm saying her last name correctly. If not, I'm sorry, Jay. But she does absolutely wonderful, wonderful work. I've loved all of her covers. She's doing the entire trilogy for me. I already have the second cover done and ready, so that's exciting. I think I actually like it more than book 1's cover.
Really?
Yeah, it's beautiful. She did a wonderful job with it. She's really great at me sitting here going, well, I sort of want this kind of vibe, and here's like some of the images I want, and then she just turns it into magic. So
that's awesome. Now, is your book considered? Would you consider it a YA book, or is it more toward adults?
Because of some of the adult themes in the book, I'm saying it's more NA or new adult.
Okay.
It's 16 plus safe, but I wouldn't go much younger than that.
Okay. So, without any spoilers, what kind of stuff makes it suitable for only 16 and up?
Well, as you're dealing with obviously reproduction and stuff like that, and reestablishing the order, some of what's happened through the 900-year time gap from now until then is that certain biological imperatives for the order have manifested, basically meaning that because the survival of the order is paramount to the survival of mankind, they've developed hey, we have to mate at these times, and there's some consequences if not, which brings up some questionable issues of consent and other such things that I really wouldn't want younger viewers necessarily reading. Okay. Unless, obviously parents can make their own decisions about, okay, my kid would be okay with this, or no, my kid would not be okay with this. But I always recommend a parent to read through in case, that way they can make their own determination. Okay.
Do you ever plan on turning it into an audiobook as well, or are you just going to do physical and ebooks for now?
Right now it's just physical and ebooks. If I start getting the sales volume to be able to get, because I know Audible will do the basically profit sharings on it. If I can get someone to pick that up, then sure. But as of right now, this early in my career, it's a little hard to scrape together the funds to do an audiobook. Yeah. So I would love to see them in audio, but right now it's sort of a back burner project.
In the biography that you sent me, that's going to be up in the show notes at Leigendarium.com, you mentioned that you played Dungeons and Dragons. Did playing D&D help you with writing your series?
It definitely gives me ideas for shenanigans. In my group, I'm sort of known as the shenanigan queen. Basically, if there's a way to make things hilarious and get in trouble at the same time, my character's going to do it. For example, I'm not sure how much of Forgotten Realms you're familiar with, if you know what an illithid is. Okay, they're basically these really weird tentacly creatures that have mind powers, so they can get in your head and do all sorts of crazy things. Mm-hmm. But they exist with a central brain, so they communicate with the central brain, and that's sort of how everything works. They're my character's racial enemy, which means that she basically loses her head and has to go kill all of the things if she sees them. And we ended up in the middle of this illithid hive, and my wonderful group of adventurers is 6 people strong. And we were technically on a rescue mission, not a kill all of the things mission. And little difficult.
Right.
Because there's over 200 elithids in this city, and they're pretty hard to fight. So we also get these fairy potions around the holidays that do different things. And so my character came up with the wonderful idea of poisoning the central brain with a Christmas potion. And we made all of the elithids happy and jolly and running around and doing crazy things. So, if there's a way to make things complicated, my character will figure it out.
That's awesome. And as we said, you just released this at the end of January, and we're actually recording this on February 5th. So it's only been out for, 2 weeks now?
Yep, a little over 2 weeks.
You've already got 15 reviews, and they're pretty much almost all 5 stars. Do you have, or as an author, what has been one way you've been able to get people to actually review your books and help you out?
Basically what I did is I did an Insta freebie campaign to release ARC copies of the book.
Okay.
People that I know that have reviewed have only been about 3 of the reviews, actually, which I've been really happy with. It's like, wow, all of these people are complete strangers to me, and I have no idea who they are, and they still like my book. Mm-hmm. And what I did is I put a little note in the front of the ebook that said, hey, these are advanced reviews copies. I would really appreciate it, if you enjoy the book, if you take some time and leave a review. So once the paperback, I accidentally published it a little early because this is my first time doing things, and I didn't realize that, oh, hey, the proof looks good. Yes, meant that it was going to go live on Amazon.
Right.
So once that was up and people could start leaving reviews, I went ahead and sent an email out because, Insta Freebie collects all the email addresses of everyone who downloads the book, and said, hey guys, it's live. If you want to go ahead and leave reviews, I put the link in there, and they just sort of have been filtering in all on their own, which is kind of nice.
Oh, so really the only thing you've done is a little Insta Freebie. Mm-hmm. That's interesting. So in your eyes, the Insta Freebie is kind of definitely worth it to do when releasing a book.
And it worked for me, and my second book strategy is going to be a little different. I'll basically be contacting those reviewers who are proven reviewers at this point, mm-hmm. and I'll still put out on my social media and stuff, hey, put a link to your review on book 1 and you'll get the ARC for book 2 sort of thing, but it'll be a much more selective process moving forward. But for a new author just building a platform, it was like, yes, have the free things, take everything free, So
since this is your first book that you've published, has there been anything that you've learned in the process of putting out your first book that you are now taking forward with you in the rest of your writing career?
Well, gosh, there's everything. So the first time you do anything, obviously, you're going to learn a lot. There are some things, when it comes to formatting and whatnot, that it's like, oh, this would have been so much easier if I had just, done it this way or whatnot. The biggest thing is to get a couple more beta readers probably on board. I've had a few volunteers, mm-hmm. So that's awesome because, you have writer friends, but you don't want to be like, hey, read my stuff. I'm the last person that will be like, you need to read my stuff just because you know me. But I've had a few that were like, yeah, I was offended you didn't ask me. And I'm like, oh, I'm sorry. Okay, cool. I have some more beta readers now. This is awesome. So, but definitely getting people's eyes on your book ahead of time. I didn't realize that after 3 rounds of editing, I would still have to do another proofreading run. So I ended up doing that in a panic because I found all sorts of funny things, like instead of her mouth being frozen open, it was her moth was frozen open. I was like, oh, well, that's a little awkward. Right. I didn't know she had a pet moth. Right. So now I can plan for those things and get things out a little bit more efficiently, certainly. But for anyone who's new, definitely get an editor. Mm-hmm. You're not able to 100% clean up your own work.
Yeah.
It's just not going to happen.
I've heard a lot of authors say that one thing they do is they read their book out loud to themselves, and that's a way they find that they catch some stuff before it goes off to an editor to look at.
Definitely. I have like a 3-phase system that I do before I send stuff to my editor now. I'll use Pro Writing Aid to grab, a lot of sticky sentences and pronoun abuse and stuff like that. And then I'll run it through Grammarly because they're a little bit more technical than Pro Writing Aid is. And then I have Natural Free Reader, which will read my book aloud to me so that I don't have to worry about dry throat or anything like that.
Right.
and that I'll catch a lot of stuff with that. But I stole a tip from another author, Jex Lane. She's a friend of mine. She actually colors in the adult coloring books while she's having her book read to her, because that keeps her mind attentive and she doesn't start like spacing out while she's listening to her work. So I sort of stole that from her, and I'll do that now.
Oh, okay.
As well. And then it goes to my editor, and then my alpha readers and I will do a final proofreading check. So we both do it. That way it's 2 more sets of eyes, just right quick and final before it goes to press, just in case there were any typos that were missed or homonyms, because those are sneaky devils. Mm-hmm. So. Okay.
And so do you have a goal in your mind for when book 2 and book 3 might be coming out for those that are curious?
The goal for book 2 is sometime in April.
Okay.
Everything willing.
Right.
I don't have a definitive plan for, month-wise for book 3 yet, but they're definitely all 3 going to be out this year. Okay. So
that's pretty impressive, 3 books in a year.
Well, all of the work on the first one happened last year, so I just got to hit the nice shiny release button this year. So.
Okay. That's one thing that I absolutely love about the indie community is it's when there's a book series that you like, you don't have to wait a year for the next book to come out, and then a year after that for the next book.
Exactly.
A lot of times you can get a series in a year to year and a half, the whole thing's out. So that's one thing I definitely love about the indie community.
Yep, it's all down to how fast you can write and how fast your editor can get to your work.
That's right. That's right. Well, here at the Leigendarium, we like to end each podcast episode with a section that we call the legendary ending. So these are just kind of some, maybe not necessarily book-related questions for you.
Okay.
The first one is, what songs are currently on your writing playlist?
Okay, that would be a lot of instrumentals because I'm a violinist. So, and if I hear words, I end up writing words, and it's really weird to have Disney soundtracks suddenly show up in your manuscript. Right. So it's probably a lot of Lindsay Sterling, a lot of 2 cellos, some Apocalyptica thrown in there. The instrumental songs from Disney soundtracks that don't have words. I have like game soundtracks from different video games that I play that I've got those songs in there. So sort of depends on the mood. You've
kind of got a whole range of music that you listen to.
Yes, and it's all instrumental. So.
Yeah, that's awesome. If you were stuck in a zombie apocalypse, which one of your book characters would you want to be stuck with?
Ooh, probably either Hound or Quad. Hound because he's good with logistics and could have a plan, and Quad because he's just my kick-ass sword guy, and that seems like a pretty valuable trait to have in a zombie apocalypse.
That works. This next one might be a little bit tougher for you. If you were stuck in a zombie apocalypse with any character from any kind of media source, books, movies, comics, video games, whatever, what character would you want to be stuck with and why?
Okay, well, I absolutely love this series, so it's really not that hard of a question for me.
Okay.
I would have to say Inda from the Sartorius Della's series by Sherwood Smith. He's a really awesome fighter, but in a couple different styles that are unique to her world. But he's also an excellent leader and a planner, which are things that I sort of fall down on. And 2 things you're going to need to survive a zombie apocalypse is a plan and a way to implement it and a way to stay alive. So I'd have to go with Inda.
Okay. So is that a book series?
It is. It's a book series, and a lot of people haven't heard of her. And it's a dang shame because she is an absolutely amazing author who I've aspired to be as far as character development. Because her characters literally just jump off the page and stay with you. So that's something I've sort of aspired to. Okay.
I'm going to throw a different one in here now. Okay. So if you could write in any author's world, which would it be and why?
I'd have to go Forgotten Realms because it's everything that I love in fantasy without me having to try and create new races. It's a world that I've spent a lot of time in. I have at least 20 of Salvatore's books on my shelf, or Salvatore. I'm not sure. I'm one of those people who I read everything and have no idea how to actually pronounce anything.
Right.
So, yeah, I'd have to say Forgotten Realms because I could go visit the Drow and I could visit everybody, and that would just be a lot of fun.
Okay. If you had a time machine, where would you travel and why?
Ooh, a time machine. Okay. I would have to be either Victorian England or straight back to caveman years. Okay. As for the why, while women didn't necessarily have a lot of freedoms in Victorian eras, I would just love to, just the gowns and the corsets and the everything is just,
right.
Caveman, it would just be interesting, to see sort of where we got our origins and our beginnings and how far we've come.
Okay.
So.
And if you could have one superpower, what would it be and why?
To never need to sleep.
That would be awesome.
I could get so much more done.
Yeah, that's true. I do love my naps, though.
Yeah, naps are fun, but it would be cool if they were on a I want to take a nap basis versus I have to take a nap basis.
Exactly. That's funny. So the question that we're kind of famous for here is a penguin walks through the door right now wearing a sombrero. What does he say and why is he here?
A sombrero. Okay. I'm going to go Princess Bride on this one and say, hello, my name is Penguin McPenguin Pants. You killed my father. Prepare to die.
There we go. That works. That's funny. And then before we leave, do you have any advice, whether it be for writing or for life, that you would like to share with our listeners?
If you ever struggle with writer's block, just write. I don't care what it is. I don't care how horrible it is. I don't care that you're going to laugh or moan about it when you look at it 2 days later. Just write. You can edit stuff that's on the page, but if all you have is a blank page, you're never going to get anywhere.
Mm-hmm. There was, I can't remember if it's somebody I had on the podcast or an interview I read somewhere, and I think they said it might be something Neil Gaiman said, I think, or maybe it was Stephen King. I can't remember who it was. I think for some reason Neil Gaiman's sticking in my head. And he said, write even when you don't feel like you want to write, because when you go back and you read your story when it's done, you're not going to remember what you were inspired to write and what you just wrote when you wrote.
Right.
It was something along that line.
And that makes a lot of sense, and I think is really what sets a more professional indie apart than from someone who's just like, oh yeah, I like to write, is the discipline of being able to open up your computer day after day, no matter what's going on, and write. I think. Do you have a certain time that you set aside every day for you to write? I set aside a lot of time. Not all of it is productive time. But I've noticed that after it's like a switch. After 10:30 at night, like the words just fly. I don't know why. I could be sitting there struggling over 500 words in like 4 hours, but as soon as that clock hits 10:30, it's like boom, and I look down and I've written 3,000 words, and it's like, wow. Well, that was nice. Wow. Maybe I should just plan on this instead of sitting here struggling for 3 hours before I get to this point.
Right. That is funny. Where can our listeners go if they would like to learn more about you and your books?
Well, my website is caitashwood.com. I spell it a little weird, though. It's C-A-I-T. Some more of the Welsh spelling. I'm on Amazon, Facebook, Twitter, just about everywhere under Cait Ashwood.
Well, we will put links to everything over in the show notes at Leigendarium.com. Well, thank you for taking time out of your day and coming on 30-Minute Author Interviews.
Thanks for having me. It's been fun.
Yeah, it has. Well, guys, that's all the time we've got for this episode. Thank you so much for tuning in to 30-Minute Author Interviews. We hope you come back next Wednesday and every Wednesday for a brand new episode. And head over to Leigendarium.com and check out the show notes where you can find the link to our sponsor, Cereal Box. I love Cereal Box. It's something I've signed up for. For $1.59, I get a brand new ebook and audiobook every week that continues the story of the witch who came in from the cold. So head on over to Leigendarium.com and follow the link to Cereal Box and check them out. I know it's something that you will thoroughly enjoy. And we'd like to give a shout out to a couple of our Patreon subscribers. We'd like to say thank you to Diane S. Loftus, Third Scribe, and Maggie Stewart Grant. They have supported 30-Minute Author Interviews over at Patreon. Head on over to patreon.com/Leigendarium. That's patreon.com/LEIGHGENDARIUM. And check out the different rewards we have. We have T-shirts as rewards. We have a special Patreon-only podcast called 10 Questions With, where we're going to be asking authors 10 questions, and many other rewards. So thank you to those three for supporting us on Patreon. And until next time, guys, remember to stay legendary. Last week, they just... dang it.